right, let's jump into another deep dive. I think everyone can relate to this. It's about small talk. The sometimes awkward small talk, especially in English.
Ah.
So today we're going to be using an episode of the English Unlocked podcast.
Okay.
It's called How to Make Small Talk in English. And, even if you're not learning English, I think these tips are really universal.
Right.
In fact, the podcast revealed this pretty interesting thing. It's that small talk is like so essential in English-speaking cultures that it's almost like a secret social code.
That's such a good point. We might think of small talk as just filler or something like that, but it really is how you build connections.
Yeah.
Especially, in certain cultures.
Yeah, absolutely. And the podcast starts by emphasizing that very point.
Yeah.
How small talk it kind of breaks the ice, right?
Yeah.
And it lays the groundwork for stronger relationships.
It's so true.
It gave some classic examples, like greetings, the weather, hobbies, even weekend plans.
Oh, yeah. Those are the staples.
Yeah, totally. And one that really stuck out to me was, I love your jacket. Where did you get it? Have you ever used a compliment as an icebreaker?
It is a really smart strategy, actually. And the podcast pointed out that in cultures like the US and the UK, small talk is almost like ritualistic.
Huh.
So mastering it isn't just about language, right?
Yeah.
It's about understanding these cultural cues. And that can really help you navigate, social situations more smoothly.
It's like having a cheat sheet for social interaction. I love that.
I know, right?
Which is pretty cool.
Totally.
Speaking of cheat sheets, the podcast, provided some great phrases. A couple that I really loved were, how's your day going so far?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think about?
Oh, yeah.
They're simple,
Yeah.
but they're effective in keeping a conversation going.
Mm-hmm.
What struck you about the phrases they suggested?
What I really loved was that the podcast went beyond just giving phrases.
Yeah.
They explained how to use them effectively.
Oh, that's so important.
Right. Like emphasizing active listening and then also avoiding controversial topics.
Oh, yeah.
Like they said, you don't want to jump into some heated political debate while you're waiting for your coffee.
Right. It's about reading the room, keeping things light,
Exactly.
engaging. And they also had a whole section on things to avoid, getting too personal too quickly or using slang that might confuse people.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It reminded me of this time that I totally bombed at a networking event.
Oh. I think we all have those stories, though. But instead of diving into a specific mishap, what did the podcast suggest for handling those awkward moments that inevitably pop up?
Yeah, that's a great question. They said not to freak out,
Oh, okay. Good advice.
which is, easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
But their point was that everyone makes mistakes, and it's not a big deal. They actually encouraged, embracing the awkwardness and just moving on.
Yeah. I think that's a crucial point. It ties back to that cultural element we talked about earlier. In some cultures, a little bit of awkwardness is expected.
Right.
It even adds to, the authenticity of the interaction.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny, right, how something as simple as small talk can have so many layers to it.
I know, right? It's fascinating.
The podcast even touched on the idea of practicing small talk, which might sound kind of silly.
Yeah.
But actually it makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Well, practice is key for any skill, right? And the English Unlocked podcast, they gave some really creative ways to do that.
Oh, cool. Like what?
Well, they suggested imagining different scenarios.
Okay.
Okay, let's say you're at a networking event or you're just, waiting in line at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And then brainstorming, conversation starters for those situations.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to get out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Think on your feet. Yeah.
Exactly.
They gave the example of instead of just saying hi at a networking event,
Oh, yeah.
you could try something like, what brings you to this event?
Oh, that's so much better.
Yeah.
It shows a genuine interest in the other person.
Yeah.
And it makes the conversation more engaging.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that genuine interest, that's key.
Right.
It's the difference between robotic small talk
Uh-huh.
and a real connection.
Totally. Yeah.
What I found interesting was their advice for handling those potentially awkward silences or those unexpected encounters. Let's say you run into someone you vaguely know on public transportation.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do?
They had a good tip for that. Yeah. Instead of just staring at your phone.
Right.
They suggested trying something like, this train is always so busy at this time. Do you take it often?
It's such a simple observation, right?
Yeah.
But it creates an opening.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's all about finding those little points of connection, right?
Yeah.
Like those shared experiences that can just help break the ice,
Totally.
build rapport. It's like they say, small talk is the gateway to deeper conversations.
Well, love that. Yeah.
The podcast also brought up something I hadn't really considered before.
Oh, what's that?
Body language.
Oh, interesting.
They stress the importance of things like smiling, making eye contact, and having like open body language.
Oh, that's so crucial.
Yeah.
Nonverbal cues, they can often speak louder than words.
I know, it's so true. Like if you're slouching, avoiding eye contact, or crossing your arms, it can send the message that you're not interested.
It's like your body is saying, leave me alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But if you approach someone with a smile, like genuine interest,
Yes.
it creates a much more welcoming, like approachable atmosphere.
For sure.
And, even with all the like tips and tricks, they emphasize that it's okay to feel nervous or awkward, especially when you're first starting out.
Absolutely. Everyone feels that way at times. It's totally natural.
Yeah.
It's part of the process. The important thing is to not, get discouraged and to keep practicing.
Yeah, just keep going.
The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thinking back to my small talk mishap at that networking event, I realize it was a learning experience. Even though it was awkward at the time,
Oh, yeah.
it taught me like the importance of reading social cues and adapting my approach.
And it probably makes for a good story now.
Oh, yeah,
It does. Sometimes those awkward moments are the ones we learn the most from.
totally. Totally. It's all part of, being human,
Right.
navigating these social situations. What's interesting is that these principles of small talk, they aren't limited to English or any specific culture.
It's a good point.
They're about connecting with others, like on a human level, right?
That's a great point. It's about recognizing that we all have like this fundamental need for connection, right? Regardless of language or cultural background.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Small talk can be a powerful tool for bridging those gaps and finding that common ground.
Yeah, and as we become like increasingly interconnected,
Right.
those skills are more important than ever, right?
Totally.
It's not just about making idle chatter. It's about fostering understanding,
Yes.
building relationships across cultures.
It's about using small talk as a way to create like a more connected and harmonious world.
I love that, yeah.
Now that we've explored the importance of small talk, some practical tips, and even laughed about a few awkward moments, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, totally. So to our listener, what are your thoughts on small talk?
What stood out to you from our deep dive today?
Do you have any go-to phrases or conversation starters that you find particularly effective?
Or maybe you have a funny story about a time you totally bombed at small talk. We'd love to hear your experiences and insights.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that, we'll wrap up our deep dive.
We've covered so much in our deep dive into small talk, like from its importance in English-speaking cultures to practical tips and even, those humorous mishaps.
Yeah, totally.
But as we wrap up, I'm curious to get your take on something you brought up earlier. Are there ever situations where small talk feels completely unnecessary
Oh, that's a good one.
or even inappropriate?
It's a great question to think about. We've talked about all these benefits of small talk, but
Right.
like any social tool, it needs to be used with awareness. The podcast didn't specifically mention this,
Right.
but it got me thinking about those times when, launching into casual chit-chat just wouldn't be the right move.
You're right. It's all about reading the room. For example, trying to make small talk with someone who's clearly upset or dealing with some kind of crisis. That would probably come across as insensitive.
Yeah, definitely.
Or imagine trying to like strike up a lighthearted conversation at a somber event like a funeral.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It just wouldn't feel right.
Exactly. There's a time and a place for everything.
Right.
And small talk is no exception.
Yeah.
It's about being sensitive to the context and the emotional state of those around you.
So while we've learned that small talk can be such a valuable tool for building connections, for navigating social situations, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
Sometimes, silence or a simple gesture of empathy can be more powerful than any well-intentioned phrase.
I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners.
Yeah.
Master the art of small talk. Practice those techniques, but also remember to be mindful and adapt to the situation.
Well said. So, to our listener, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the surprisingly nuanced world of small talk.
It is surprising.
We hope you've gained some insights and maybe even feel a bit more prepared to navigate those everyday conversations.
And if you're interested in continuing to explore English and its cultural quirks, we highly recommend checking out the English Unlocked podcast.
Yeah, great suggestion.
They have a ton of great resources for learners of all levels.
Until next time, keep practicing your small talk, use it wisely, and never underestimate the power of a genuine smile and a willingness to connect with those around you.
Couldn't agree more.